All right, let's talk about medical cannabis for pets. You've probably heard about it, right? And if you're anything like me, your first reaction was probably a bit of, well, skepticism. The claims can seem huge, a little all over the place. So today, we're going to put the anecdotes aside, follow the data, and see where the actual science takes us.
This quote right here, it just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It's from the author of our source material, who has a PhD in neuroscience. And she's saying what a lot of us think. When you hear that one little thing can supposedly fix everything, your snake oil alarm starts going off. So let's treat this as a real investigation, not a sales pitch.
So the person who's guiding us through this, she started from that exact same place of doubt. With her background in neuroscience, she trusts hard data. Chemicals, neurotransmitters, things you can measure, not just heartwarming stories. And honestly, that's a great place to start for anyone who just wants to cut through all the noise. And this is the big question, isn't it? How could one single plant possibly help with things as different as anxiety, seizures, and inflammation? It just doesn't sound right. That's the mystery we need to solve. Because if this isn't just hype, there has to be a real biological reason for it. Okay, so the very first thing we have to do is clear up some major confusion. You hear the words cannabis, hemp, and marijuana thrown around a lot, sometimes all at once. But they mean very different things, especially when we're talking about our dogs. This is not, and I repeat, not about getting your pet high. So let's break this down, because it's super important. Both hemp and marijuana are technically cannabis plants, but think of them like cousins bred for totally different purposes. Marijuana is packed with THC. That's the stuff that's psychoactive. Hemp, on the other hand, is required by law to have almost no THC. Instead, it's rich in a different compound called CBD, which is non-psychoactive. And that is what's used in pet products.
It's funny. CBD for pets feels so new, right? Like this modern wellness trend. But it turns out the use of hemp is anything but new. It has this incredibly deep and legitimate history, not just as some old folk remedy, but as a crucial crop and a totally mainstream medicine.
Just look at this timeline. It's kind of mind-blowing. We're talking about a plant used for medicine in China 7,000 years ago. It was called one of 5 sacred plants in ancient Hindu texts, a plant that could release us from anxiety. And get this, by the late 1800s, it was one of the top 3 most common medicines on the entire planet. Then, politics just shut it all down. And this right here really drives the point home. This isn't just some story passed down. This is a scientific drawing from a famous ancient Greek medical book. They were documenting its use for inflammation, for pain. They were even using it to dress wounds on their horses. This was established medicine. It was just as big a deal here in America. The Puritans literally brought hemp seeds with them on the Mayflower. In the early days, it was seen as a patriotic duty for farmers to grow it. We're talking George Washington, Thomas Jefferson. They were huge advocates. In some places, you could even pay your taxes with it. Can you imagine that? And then 1937 happened. The Marijuana Tax Act came along and pretty much just crushed the entire domestic industry overnight. A plant that had been a cornerstone of farming and medicine for millennia was suddenly off limits. And that's really where a lot of the confusion and stigma that we see today was born.
So okay, if hemp was used for so many different things throughout history, how in the world does it actually work? Well, this is where modern science gives us that big aha moment. It turns out there's a biological system inside our bodies, and our dogs' bodies, that was completely undiscovered until we started studying the cannabis plant.
It's called the endocannabinoid system, or ECS for short. And here's the wild part. We literally only found out about this system because we were studying cannabis. It's not just in us, it's in every vertebrate. That means mammals, birds, fish. Your dog has one, I have one. It's this master network that helps regulate some of the most critical functions in the body. And this diagram, this is the key to solving our whole mystery. Just look where these receptors are. They're everywhere. You've got the CB1 receptors, which are mostly in the brain, affecting things like mood and memory. Then you have the CB2 receptors, which are all over the immune system and organs. This is why cannabinoids can have such widespread effects. They're plugging into a system that's all over the body. So if you're trying to wrap your head around what this thing actually does, the best analogy is to think of it like a thermostat for the body. It's a master regulator.
When something gets out of balance, maybe there's too much inflammation or a nerve is firing too much, the ECS kicks in to dial things back down. It's always working to keep the body in a stable, balanced state called homeostasis.
Which brings us all the way back to where we started, with that long list of claims that sounded like snake oil. Well, this wheel here shows why it's actually plausible. These are all the different actions being studied: anti-inflammatory, anti-anxiety, and so on. It's not one magic bullet for one problem. It's a compound that talks to the body's master regulator. The science gives us a real reason for why it might have such a broad range of effects.
Okay, the science is fascinating, for sure. But as a pet owner, you're probably asking the practical questions, right? Like, is this even legal? And what is my vet allowed to tell me? The rules can be pretty confusing, so let's clear it up.
Let's be super clear about this. When we're talking about marijuana, your veterinarian's hands are tied. Because it's still a Schedule I controlled substance at the federal level and a vet's license is federally regulated, they just can't prescribe or even recommend it. It doesn't matter what the laws are in your state.
But, and this is the key piece of information for all of us, hemp is a completely different story. Thanks to the 2018 Farm Bill, industrial hemp and the products made from it are federally compliant. The only rule is that they have to contain less than 0.3% THC. And that's why you can legally buy hemp-derived CBD products.
Wow, okay, we've covered a lot of ground, haven't we? We started with a healthy dose of skepticism, we dug into thousands of years of history, and we looked at the deep science of the endocannabinoid system. So let's bring it all home and talk about what this means for you.
First things first, we absolutely have to cover the official stuff. The FDA has not evaluated these statements, and these products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. The most important thing you can ever do for your pet's health is talk to your veterinarian. They are your #1 resource.
Because at the end of the day, all of this science, all of this history, it all comes back to a very simple truth, doesn't it? Our dogs are the center of our world. And we're all just trying to figure out what's best for them. That means being open to new ideas, but it also means doing our homework and really understanding the facts.
Things are changing fast. The science is moving forward every day, and so is the legal landscape. We've basically rediscovered this ancient plant, and with it, a fundamental system in our pets' bodies. So that really just leaves us with one final thought. As the research continues, what role will cannabinoid play in the future of our pets' health?